Hello, I'm Dr. Marianne Shiozawa, and this is episode 21 of the You're Doing Great Mom podcast.
So I never thought I'd say this. I love my life. I compare myself to some of my friends who've had kids late. My life is much easier. I have freedom. If we want to go away for a weekend, we don't work Fridays. We can just book a flight. Or we can just book a hotel. It does create a different life. But there is a hole. There's I watch my kids. I've got some really close friends with children, and I watch how they are with their kids, and part of me still, it would, I can see how it would enrich my life.
I've been having a lot of fun exploring different topics and subjects for my podcast, and it's been really great meeting all sorts of women talking about this vast world of motherhood. Last week, I spoke to Noreen Sumter, a great friend of mine who I've known for nearly 20 years, who is not a mother by choice. And in today's episode, I speak to my friend Rachael Talbot-Frank, who is a close friend of mine and a colleague, a fantastic chiropractor who practices network spinal analysis in Manchester. It's kind of far away from London, so we don't get to see each other that often. She is also not a mother, and her story is totally different from Noreen's. Rachael and I met at a chiropractic seminar about 8 years ago in the UK before I moved to London. We've become good friends and definitely close colleagues as we continue to see one another each year, both for professional reasons at seminars and personal social gatherings as well. I know that if we lived closer together, I'd definitely become even closer to her, since I find her to be really fun, inspiring, and with similar interests. And also, she has a really supportive connection to me. I feel really strong, and I get a lot of energy from her when we're together, which is what I love about the close people in my life. So when I asked Rachael to share her experience about not being a mother, she told me that she'd think about it, and which is understandable. I mean, this subject isn't something that most women talk about amongst each other, let alone share it to the world on a podcast. So when she came back to me and said, Marianne, I'm ready to be on your podcast, I was thrilled. So Rachael was so open, generous, and really authentic in our conversation during this episode, and I hope you love listening to her story. Enjoy. Hi, Rachael. Thanks for being on my podcast.
Hi, Marianne. I'm excited about this and a bit nervous.
That's okay. Everybody says that, actually. And I get nervous too. So I really, really appreciate that you are joining me and talking about this, because like you've been saying to me, it's something that I think people just in general don't talk about. And so, the topic is not being a mother for whatever reason. And it's just, my last episode, as I was just telling you, is with a friend of mine who is in her mid-50s, and she just chose not to have children. She never really wanted to have children, and so it's just interesting how now I'm interviewing you, and I'm sure that your story is your story, and it's completely different. And actually, I'm really looking forward to talking to you, because we've never really talked about this, even though we've known each other for a good amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
It's not something I talk about much, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's almost a taboo subject for some people.
It is. Do you get that? So you're not a mother, and you are, how old are you?
I'm 47 now.
Okay, you're 47.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the conversation about not being a mother, it just kind of piqued my interest, because I was talking to my husband about this particular subject, and I thought, it'd be really interesting to have women talking about their lives without children, not being mothers for whatever reason. And he was saying, then he came up to me like a week later and he's like, there's an article in The Economist. This is like a month ago or something, saying there's an article about women who are not mothers for there's like 4 solid reasons, like generally among women, and the most common is because they wanted to be mothers, but for some reason they couldn't. And then the least common was women choosing not to be mothers. So, and then there was like a whole range in between there. So it's it was a really interesting article, and I thought it's gotta be, I want to bring this conversation forward, So I wanted to hear your story. What your side of the story?
Okay. So I'll probably do this in a random order.
Yeah.
I've gone through different periods of my life when I wanted to be a mum, and other periods when I really haven't wanted to be a mum. So as I was a teenager, I remember really not being interested, and that really didn't change in my early 20s. I got married at 24, and I actually got divorced quite quickly. That didn't work out.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that, there you are.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
I was together with him after our marriage for about 15 months. Bit of a oops. Nice guy, wrong man.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was 21, I sort of had my first shake-up around being a mum, because a few weeks after my 21st birthday, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
So this was 26 years ago. And the view at the time was, if you're diabetic and you want kids, have them young. And I was in a relationship with the guy I eventually married, but I wasn't ready for kids, and I wasn't even sure I wanted them. So it just didn't come up as a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We never tried. And then we broke up when I was 25, and my life just went in a different direction. And then I met a guy in my late 20s, and it seemed like it was going somewhere. He was Dutch, he lived in Holland, I lived in England, but other than that, he was in England a lot. So we started a long-distance relationship. I was studying to be a chiropractor at the time, and on a drunken evening when I was about 33, we said, let's have a baby. And I got pregnant.
Really?
Yeah. And it wasn't thought about, it wasn't planned. And it was the most amazing feeling I've ever had. It was like, oh my God, how could I not have wanted this?
Wow.
And I miscarried at 12 weeks.
Oh.
And that is the only time I've been pregnant. And that was probably the hardest time in my life, because I wanted that kid so much. And now I would have a 14-year-old.
Oh my goodness.
If I had that child.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't really know this. I mean, you did mention a miscarriage, but I didn't know the details. And wow.
Yeah. So I stayed with him for another few years. And it actually affected both of us. I mean, I just wanted to try again, and he just so didn't. I mean, I could sort of see his reasons. When I miscarried, I had a miscarriage, and I had a huge bleed. And with hindsight, I really was quite ill. But for me, it didn't matter. It was like, well, that happened. I survived, I missed 6 weeks of college.
Wow.
It was my final year, but, I passed all my exams. I got through. I was a busy student. It really wasn't a logistical problem. I just lost. I lost a baby, and I think I cried for about 2 weeks, as you do. I really get that feeling when people tell me about how it is to miscarry. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And then I broke up from him 2-3 years later, moved back to the UK, because I lived in Holland with him for a few years. And then I met my now husband, and we decided we wanted kids, and it has never, ever happened. We have never managed to conceive.
Really?
And we've been together nearly 11 years. And so I've come to the point, probably in the last 3 or 4 years, where I've just gone, it's not meant to be. And so, I'm sort of reflecting when you say people will always ask me, I work with quite a lot of children in my chiropractic office, and they go, are you a mum? And I'm like, no, I'm not a mum. And the reaction, some people are just like, oh, bad conversation, and they just change the subject. Very, very few people ask why. And a lot of people say, why didn't you try IVF? And I suppose this is where I differ from a lot of women who I don't think for me it's ever been, I have to be a mother, I have to have a child. I don't think I've ever been that strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's been one of those things. I thought I always would be a mother. I think I'd do a backflip if I got pregnant now. But I always thought I would be. But partly because I have a chronic illness, and type 1 diabetes is very manageable. But nonetheless, it's an illness. It appears to have a genetic component. It runs in my family. And I have a belief that if you can't conceive a child naturally, then maybe your genes don't mix. And I had a big fear around having a sick child. And that was always something that I would put the health of the child over my health. If I believed truly I could have had a totally healthy child, guaranteed, of course there's no guarantees, would I have considered it? Possibly. But I fundamentally believe that the planet's overcrowded. So I made that decision not to go that route. And I've also seen the damage it does to women. I've worked with a lot of women going through IVF. And emotionally, when it succeeds, it's okay. When it doesn't succeed, it's almost destroyed them. Almost worse than the women who've tried naturally and not succeeded. They just sort of go, it's not what I wanted, it's not what I planned, but I can cope. But the ones who've tried and 4, 5, 6 cycles and not succeeded are probably amongst the most traumatized people I've worked with. So having seen that on so many occasions in practice, people are like, you want to do IVF? I'm like, I've got type 1 diabetes. It's not happened naturally. And I can see the benefits, though I never thought I'd say this. I love my life. I compare myself to some of my friends who've had kids late. My life is much easier. I have freedom. If we want to go away for a weekend, we don't work Fridays. We can just book a flight. Or we can just book a hotel. It does create a different life. But there is a hole. There's I watch my kids. I've got some really close friends with children, and I watch how they are with their kids, and part of me still, it would, I can see how it would enrich my life. At the same time, I am now at a point where I really don't think I want to be pregnant. But if it happens, I honestly couldn't tell you what I would do.
Right.
I think I'd probably get it checked at 13 weeks. If everything was okay, I'd go for it. Right. Because I couldn't abort a healthy child in the same way. Yeah. It's one of those ones that's if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But it's an easy expression to use. It's not meant to be. That doesn't mean there's no pain with that. And I think a lot of people don't. I think people are scared to ask why you haven't had kids, in case you've had we did 10 rounds of IVF and we failed. Yeah. But I also think they don't want to hear you didn't want to have kids, because that reflects back at them. So I think people don't want the answer. I don't think there are any answers that are acceptable. Yeah, I think that's true. I feel quite judged quite a lot by people. Because it's almost expected as a woman that's your highest need. And I can't tell you it's my highest need or not my highest need, but it's something that's not happened in my life, and I'm not going to let it ruin my life. And I've seen women where it has totally destroyed them. And my heart just completely goes out to a woman who is so wants a child and can't have a child. Yeah. And I suppose on one level I'm grateful that I'm not that woman. Yeah. But I've had my moments. I've cried tears on friends, and even in the last year. Yeah. Because every now and then you're like, oh God. Yeah. It's you don't plan this when you're a kid. You think, oh, by the time I'm 28, I'll have a husband, I'll have 2.4 children, I'll have a career, I'll have it all. And then life takes you in a completely unexpected route. I never expected to get ill. I thought I was indestructible. Yeah. But that was I was like, oh God, if I have kids, am I going to pass this on? And I think maybe that had a bigger effect. I don't think we have a divine right to a child. But the thought of me carrying a child, for starters, I'd have artificial chemicals in my body through the whole pregnancy because of insulin, because I have to take it to be alive. And I do wonder what that does. And it just, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But even that view is not very popular. It's like everyone sort of believes now they have it right. And it's like, I don't believe that. I think if you got, you survived. I mean, I'm very lucky to be alive. I count my blessings every day that insulin exists. Because without it, I would have died, I don't know, 26 years ago.
Yeah.
So my life was saved by modern medicine. It doesn't give me a right to bring another life into the world. God, worse than that, a sick life. I would just, consciously, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Unconsciously, I could, like every other mother who has a child with challenges, because you love them whatever.
But I think that I completely understand your feelings are, I think that they're completely understandable. I don't think that I don't think you should feel like wrong about it, or that, like, you know, I think that's kind of noble. It's like I hear more stories of women where, you know, like you're saying, they have such a strong desire to be a mother that they'll do whatever it takes. And, you know, and I'm not judging there. I'm just saying that, like, I think for the most part, it's kind of like, I mean, I have a friend, like, long time ago, I met somebody where she was in a relationship that wasn't a very good relationship, but she so wanted to be a mother that it didn't matter what was going on in her world, and that her world actually, her world around her in her life was actually not very stable. And I just thought, just from, like, objectively seeing, I thought, it's probably not a good idea to bring a child into your life right now. And it's just like she had blinders, you know. And I think that, I don't know, my point is that I think a lot of women don't take time to think about the right time, or is it appropriate, or, do you know what I mean? Like, I think that what you're saying, in that you didn't want to have, for whatever reason, you just thought that you were just worried that, I don't know, that you were going to pass some kind of gene, or, you know, I mean, that's totally understandable.
You know, the funny thing, hearing you talk, is the guy I got pregnant with, on reflection, was really not very nice. He was a bully, and he bullied me, and I stayed with him, I don't know, 4 or 5 years in the end. And by the end of it, I was a shell. I was so run down and so exhausted. Yeah, I desperately wanted to have a child because I'd been pregnant with him once. And I remember he said something to me quite not long after that. He said something along the lines of, "We'll always be connected because you're part of me now because you carried my child." And when I look back, that was massive manipulation. But I didn't leave him because of that comment. I felt like it was, don't ask me what was going on. But it's I think it's a time of your life, your late 20s, your early 30s, when you're quite vulnerable as a woman, because the body clock is starting to tick, and you're thinking, is it now? I got to have a kid, I got to do it now. Okay, some people panic at like 39, but I started to go that way at like 31, 32. And so many women have said that to me at that age. You start to go, past 30, shit, I need a partner now. And I was prepared to really, really drop my standards to get a child.
Well, I just...
And, and I'm truly grateful that we didn't have a child together, because his family were very dysfunctional, and it wouldn't have been pretty, because we would not have survived as a relationship long term, because I would not have been able to cope with that level of aggression, and if not physical, it was there, because he wasn't very mature. But, you know, so, and I know he's now married somebody else who already has children, and part of me is quite glad his gene pool hasn't gone any further. But that's a horrible thing to say, but my experience of him wasn't good. So, but in that early period, in my early 30s, I can see why women go out and just get pregnant and walk and don't even tell the guy. I can see where the drive comes from. I'm kind of grateful it didn't happen that way. But I have two close friends who are single mums whose partners, one had drugs, one was a drug problem, one had a violence problem, and they've both brought their kids up single-handedly and done amazing jobs. But it's not been easy.
Yeah, it can be. It can be done.
It can be done.
It can be done, but
all a personal choice. It's all a personal choice, and I just at the end made the decision that it wasn't. It probably mattered more to my mum that I had kids than it mattered to me. She was desperate to be a grandmother, and obviously I've not produced one.
Yeah,
but it's my life. I have other things I'm contributing.
That's so good. You know? Yeah, I know you.
I help loads of parents, lots of children. You know, I help lots of children. I just don't have one biologically.
Yeah, I mean, I know you have got this really full, rich life, and you've got so much going on, and I think it's really great. And that's what you were saying. I think it makes me realize and think that the conversation of motherhood lives within all women. You know what I mean? And it's a constant conversation. You know. I think, well, for the most part, I don't want to say like every single woman, but I definitely think that most women, it's a constant conversation. And then when, even now you're saying that when people ask you if you have any children, the conversation comes up. And so it's always this, this sort of reality that is there. But I think like, it's actually kind of good that you didn't have that strong, like, I absolutely need to be a mother. I mean, I think that I had that. I knew I wanted to be a mother. Like, it was just this thing where I needed it. I think for one moment in my life when I was about 27, when I was single in New York City and I was just having so much fun, I think I had a fleeting moment of thinking, do I want children? But that was like short-lived, really short-lived. But, I can completely I am that type of woman who, I think I would have, I don't know, I would have really done anything to be a mother, probably to the point of adoption, So I don't know. I mean, I can't say that I would do IVF, but yeah, that yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I never knew what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things you can't, I don't know how it is to be a mother. I know how it is to be pregnant. I know how it is to feel life growing inside of me, but I don't know how it is to be a mother. And at one level, that's like, oh, that's a pain. But then I know how to mother people. I know how to nurture people. I know how to care for people. I know how to do a lot of the things instinctively that I would do if I was a mum. Yeah? But it's the risks were too big to take for me.
Yeah.
It's and I hear you. I know you're an amazing mum and you've got amazing kids. But it's not everyone's path. I think if people could understand that, and I think especially the people, for example, like yourself, who it was a burning need. I think if there was people who were just a little bit more compassionate and a little bit less judgmental, they're the people who would benefit the most.
Yeah.
Because for them, for some of the women I've worked with, it's like a huge shame they couldn't have kids.
It is.
I have a little bit of that. It's like at one level I failed, couldn't carry a child.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely at one level. Yeah, and I've cried about that. But I tried.
Yeah, that must be really, that's actually interesting. That must be really, really, I didn't think about that. I mean, you saying that, mentioning that really must be strong, that shame, that feeling of I failed or my body has failed me kind of thing. I mean, yeah, that's gotta be, how does a woman heal from that? I mean,
Do you know?
because we're so critical of our bodies
Yeah.
anyway.
I think when I first got the diabetes at 21, that was my overwhelming emotion. It's like I was so angry with my body, like my body was separate from me. It's like, how dare you be ill? How dare you let me down? And that has been probably a lifetime's work of celebrating what's good about my body. And that's something I've probably grown into really in the last 5 to 10 years. Of just going, do you know what? I have an amazing body. Yeah, I haven't grown a child. But look what I've done. Look who I am. Look who I've managed to be. Look at the lives I've influenced and the lives I've changed in a positive way. I think maybe it's a funny one, like the shame has been a gift, because you're right, it's so common in women anyway. And I'm sure a lot of women who, like me, have been in a good relationship and expected to get pregnant have done an awful lot about self-blame, and it must have been my fault. And yeah, I'm sure from what I know of women, we're very, very, very good at beating ourselves up.
Oh my God, yeah.
My best, and I have cried about this. But through the shame has come a lot of strength. Probably more from being ill than the baby, actually, than not having a child. Because I know you get a huge amount of strength by being a parent. It just gives you something. I've seen it. You see it in people all the time. When they're a parent, something shifts. It's like, wow, I've done this. I've grown a child, and now I'm going to protect that child, whatever it takes. And I've never had to do that about anything other than myself. I've had to really look after myself. So it's taught me a lot about self-care, because you all want to nurture.
Yeah.
It's part of being human. And the only person I can truly look after is me. So I have. Like 99% of the time. Don't get me wrong. I drink the odd bottle of champagne.
Yeah.
Yes, we all do. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, but yeah, people don't think about it from a... I think that's why people are so uncomfortable to ask, because especially women, we know that for most women who don't have children, there is some pain. And we're conditioned as British. I know you're an American, French, whatever mix. But we are conditioned to tell everybody that everything's fine all the time.
Yeah.
That's the standard answer. If you're British, how are you doing? I'm fine. Yeah, really? Is that a good fine, a shit fine, great fine, bad fine? But we have that in our vernacular. It's there all the time. And when someone says, do you have children? They expect you to say yes. And when you say no, you can feel their reaction. And it's like, I will listen to their reaction and then decide, do I say we just never tried, we couldn't? Or do I say I chose not to? I rarely say I chose not to, because I didn't choose not to. I just chose not to go the IVF adoption route.
It's a complex answer, actually, you know.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's not.
It isn't a simple one. It's
yeah,
not
no,
simple.
exactly. It's not a simple one, because there's so many emotions and thoughts and circumstances involved, you know. And I think I don't think it's very simple for most women who are not mothers, who for whatever reason don't have a child, except for the exception to, like, the ones that are the least common, which is my friend Noreen that I interviewed last week. And it was very simple for her. She's like, I just knew I didn't want to ever have children. It's very simple. And that, you know, in that sense, that's actually the rarest. And
the easiest.
Yeah, and the easiest. And, you know, it's a really just different, you know, the way she looks at it. And then she also said what you said, like, she's like, I know that I'm very nurturing. I'm very caring. She also has, one of her neighbors is a single mom who they've been living in the same flat building for 15 years or something. And this girl has basically been, was raised, like with her practically. So she's very mothering to her. So, she's, because of who we are as women and our instincts, every woman is nurturing and caring and loving and can be mothering. A woman doesn't have to be a mother, 24/7 to experience those qualities and the natural instincts. So, but, I mean, it's a complex.
It's the unspoken topic. You're right.
What's that?
It's the unspoken subject. People don't think about it.
And I think
so it's cool that we get a chance to today.
I mean, in my view, I admire women that don't have children. I have a lot of feelings about. I admire them. I respect them. I envy them. It's almost like I can't imagine my life not being a mother, but at the same time, I fantasize about it. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And when you say, like, you and your husband, if you feel like going away for a weekend, it's like, honey, what do you want to do this weekend? And you want to go on a road trip, right? It's kind of like, oh my God, to be able to do that. It's just, I can't do that. I mean, I'm not until my kids are of legal age where I can leave them at the house by themselves, and I know they're not going to trash the house. So
you mean never?
Yeah, I guess pretty much. I
see.
It's just I envy that. I mean, if I want to go away, the amount of work that I have to organize to make that happen is just like, it's just like no end of stress and logistics and like planning and all that. It's just it's just like such a huge part of it. But I don't have that. But anyway, it's not just that. It's just there is something that you have that you are experiencing in your reality as a woman that I am not experiencing and that I cannot experience, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And I think that like I mean, I used to not understand. I don't know if it's like, I never looked at it as a negative thing about, if a woman didn't have children, but now I'm at the point where I really can appreciate the, you as a woman who doesn't have children. And, when I meet somebody and, the conversation comes up and I just say, oh, do you have children? And they say, no. It's like, it's like, oh, it's like I'm looking at it's like I want to hear about that woman's life. Like, what do you do? And, what are you doing this weekend? and I just love it. I admire it. I want those women in my life.
Do you know, that brings something else up that I'd not really thought about. I have lost some friends because they've had kids, and suddenly I don't fit their perception of a suitable friend. Everything is about their children, which I get that for the first few years. But because I've not had children, it's like there's no common bond.
Yeah.
I could think of at least 4 or 5 people I was very close to in my 20s before they started having children. And they will make comments like, you wouldn't understand, you don't have kids. And I'm like, try me. Mm-hmm. But that creates gaps, and it's like, you know what? I haven't had kids. I'm a human being. Try me. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that I find quite sad. Some people I was very, very close to.
Yeah.
And I'm not allowed to have opinions on children. You know what? I've been a child. There's lots of children in my life.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to have an opinion, but I'm not allowed to have an opinion because I've not born a child. And that I find really sad, and I find it really sad that I never get that reaction from men. I just get that reaction from women.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's like, yeah, there's some probably healing that women need to do around that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like never question, I mean, it happens between mothers. It's like when a mother tells another mother her like, oh, well, you do it this way or do it that way or blah blah blah. Like, mothers are so protective of like their
Yeah.
parenting style, and so it doesn't matter who it's saying from, but especially if it's coming from another woman who's not a mother, or even a man who's not a father. It's like, I am not going to listen to you or even like consider what you're saying.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I rarely comment, but it depends on the friend, because I have some amazing friends. I have one friend with 7 kids, and we talk about her kids all the time. And she values my opinion. I love her kids to pieces, you know? I know her kids. But equally, I would never presume to judge her mothering style. I think she's amazing as it happens, but you don't judge people. You just love them.
Yeah.
Because you put 100 women in the room with kids, they're all going to do it differently. And there's lots of lifestyle choices I don't agree with that other people make. That doesn't stop me liking the people who make them. You know?
Yeah.
I judge my friends on who they are, not whether they have children or not. I know that if they have kids, we have to plan things differently, depending on the age of the kid. But, it's not about, for me. But I find the other way around, it's like, there's quite a strong judgment of what's wrong with you, why didn't you have children?
Yeah.
Or worse than that, maybe she tried and couldn't. And then she's going to turn into a blubbering wreck if I ask her about it. It's like, you catch me in the right moment, I'll cry about it. But probably only with the people I'm really close. Yeah, so it's a taboo topic in some ways. Not totally taboo, but sort of on the edge of taboo.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted
I didn't expect to lose friends, but I definitely have. And they may reappear as their children get older.
Yeah. Of course,
and if they do, we'll see what's left of the friendship.
That's
but
so,
I've moved on
that's
and
so
made
sad.
other friends. Yeah, I think it's really sad. I think it's something lost, rather than I could enrich their life because I have a different life. But because I'm not the same, it's like a need for sameness, which has not been one of my big motivators in life. I like variety. But yeah, I've had different, my choices weren't totally choices. Things happen like this. As I said, if I could have carried that child, I would have carried that child. No question about it. But for whatever reason, I wasn't able to. Or I'm guessing it wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
And nature went, not a good one here, let's get rid of it. Before, yeah, and that's what nature does. Is it 1 in 3 pregnancies end in miscarriage?
Yeah, it's so common. Yeah.
I got pregnant once, I miscarried. So statistically, needed 2 more bunks and that would have been fun. But it wasn't meant to be in this lifetime. So, as I say, if it happens now, I will have a big hissy fit. But then work out what the hell I'm going to do. I think we're very unlikely to conceive after 11 years. We're both getting older now. It's probably not going to happen. So I have seen it. I've had a patient at 48 give birth. So.
Oh, really?
She didn't want kids. Yeah, she didn't want kids.
Oh, really?
She got pregnant. Carried full term, healthy child. Wasn't in her life plan at all.
Wow.
I have several people, actually. I've worked with a few women who actively have been in your group of not wanting kids, who've had kids. And they're probably more challenged than me because they really didn't want a child. But they couldn't ethically do it. They couldn't bring themselves not to have the child when they got pregnant. Yeah, I know 2 people.
Wow.
And I almost feel they're more damaged by it than I am by not having them. Because I've come to a point of acceptance. And they are constantly in a push-pull of, I didn't plan this. So that's only a few people, and I'm sure there are other people who've got pregnant by accident, not wanting kids, and gone, oh my God, how did I never want kids? I know of 2 women who really struggle with being mothers because it wasn't in the plan. They had planned a different life. So that's a whole different topic. I doubt you'll find one of them to talk because they've got children that are growing up. And I think if that was me, I wouldn't want to talk about that publicly. Because the shame of not wanting children when you have them, I think,
Yeah.
But it's the kind of conversation I hear in confidence, and obviously it stays in confidence. But I've heard it. I didn't expect to hear that conversation, but I have heard it.
Well, I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah.
And there's this book called Conscious Parenting or Awake, and I think there's 2 books that she wrote. And her name is Shafari. I can't remember. I gotta find it, but she's amazing. She wrote Conscious Parenting and also Awaken Parenting, and she was on Lewis Howe's podcast, and she's basically saying that your child chooses you. So you call it, whether you realize it or not or whatever. Her philosophy is that that the child, the soul of the child, chooses the mother.
I believe that.
Very so true. Yeah, I mean, it's like when you look at it that way, it's like, whoa, okay. And it's fascinating because as you become a mother to that child, it's a gift in that child is also teaching you who you are and how you are being. And it's rather that we are teaching our child as they grow older and, blah, 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 and they're learning from me and I tell them this and discipline that and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's your child is teaching you, and when you, and they chose you. And when you take that on, that kind of, and then she expands it to, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Like, this is a child of the universe. It's not your child. I mean, it's... Yeah,
you're a caretaker. You're just here to nurture it for the first 16, 18, 20 years. Yeah, I get that.
You could guide them and, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, you have to set their soul free. You have to... Yeah. You are there just to nurture them and feed them. Yeah, but it's like they are their soul belongs to the universe. Their being belongs to the universe. And when I was listening to that, I was just kind of like, oh my God. It was for me as a mother, it was a little uncomfortable because it's like, oh my gosh, it completely twisted my my approach to, my discipline and, as a mother, it's just like, whoa. Anyway, so yeah, that's that when you were saying that those women that that are in their late 40s, and if you happen to be pregnant, it's like you taking on that philosophy of, well, this child chose me. It's like an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I can turn that back and go, you know what, I wasn't meant to nurture a child in this lifetime. Because if I had been, it would have happened. I would have found a way. I say, if I'm one of those in the late 40s who does it, so be it. But I don't think I will be now. It doesn't feel like my path anymore. But I have lots of kids in my life, and I love that. I also like giving them back when they're obnoxious.
Yeah.
The big perk of not being a mum.
Yeah.
You get them when they're lovely. And but yeah, so it was a choice that was sort of pushed upon me. But one that I feel now pretty comfortable with. But that's taken a bit of soul searching.
I think you can offer, I think women like you can offer a lot of wisdom, and I also think that women who, like you were saying about your friends who had children and then they kind of had it disconnected with friends like you that don't have children. I think that it's good to get some kind of conversation in about like our behavior, and the way we are and the way we judge and the way we just disconnect and close relationships and friendships. And I think that we all have wisdom and something to contribute. And so like for you, what would you, because I'm sure people don't ask you this question, what kind of wisdom, what kind of advice would you give to a younger woman who is like just rewind and like, if you could say something to your 25 or 30-year-old self,
what would I say?
Yeah, or like a woman that's trying to get pregnant, and she's, something where she's just not really sure that she wants to have a baby, but the clock is ticking, and blah blah blah. Yeah, I don't know, any kind of wisdom, anything.
What? Yeah, I know exactly what I would say. Plan your life for now. Don't put your life on hold. Because there were times when I put my life on hold, I didn't take opportunities because I wanted to meet a guy and settle down and have kids. And so I had my life quite often on hold for the child that never came. So that's what I would say is, if there's never a right time to have a child. So many women have said that to me.
Yep.
And some managed to fluke it. I got two friends who managed to time their children around the hockey seasons. They do things like this. But the actual reality is there's never a right time. But opportunities come up throughout your life. And there are some probably that I could have taken that I didn't take, because I was scared I wouldn't have the opportunity to have a child if I took the opportunity. So that would be my advice to me is live in the moment. And if a child comes into your life, work it out when the child comes into your life. Because you've got 9 months, you've got warning. It's not like you get pregnant and pop the next day.
Right.
You've got maybe 7-8 months, because you don't necessarily know straight away. Though I knew the second I'd conceived. It was like I knew immediately.
Oh,
and I think a lot of women have. But I would just say to the younger me, if you're going to have a kid, great. If you're not going to have a kid, great. But make sure you take the opportunities and follow your path and follow your heart. Don't listen to what everyone tells you should be doing, because I was really influenced by this. You should have a child. You should have a career. You should have this. You should have that. And I think somewhere in the middle of all of it, I lost a bit of me. I've been so pressured by my mother's desire to be a grandmother. And I made some decisions on hindsight that if I just really come into the moment and gone, what really serves me in this moment, I would be in a different place. Yeah.
Don't you have any siblings?
I have a brother.
Yeah, that's right. You have a brother.
He's also not had kids.
Oh, okay.
He's incapable of sustaining a relationship for longer than 6 months.
I met your brother.
For whatever reason.
Oh.
He's lovely. He just doesn't seem to stay in relationships. So my mother is not going to have a grandchild unless he has a late child. He may do that yet.
Yeah.
He may marry someone who's got kids. She may get adopted grandkids.
Right.
But, you can't do these things to keep other people happy. You have to do it for yourself. So that's what I'd say to you and me is, really ask yourself what serves you. Because I think when you really connect to your own needs, you have a bigger impact on everybody. I think that makes them much happier, whole human beings when you really, really know who you are and what serves you. Because as you say, a child it's like a rental property. You have them for so long and then you just don't know. You can be the best mother in the world and your child turns out to be an axe murderer. You can be a lousy mother and you have this amazing child who goes on and saves the world, Yeah. I know there's a lot in the nature nurture, and I think there's a lot about what you do, but I also know that it's still a human being and they will have their path independent of the parents to a certain extent as well. So I think maybe your view in it is also about what you learn from it. And I've not thought about it as much from that point of view. I thought about it more from what I could give. Because that's what motivates me generally in life. which is probably why I'd advise old me to remember that I exist too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about making everything right for everybody else and serving everybody else. It's also about connecting to what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think people who are fulfilled are much, they do so much more than people who are being driven by I should.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I turned the I should button off a lot earlier than I actually did.
Oh, that's such the I shoulds.
Yeah. I think we could all do a bit more with not listening to us with kids like that.
Yes, young people, young women, young men listening, just erase that from your vocabulary.
Yeah, and it's not about being selfish. It's about being honest. It's not me. It's more who am I? How do I bring the best of me to the world? Be it as a wife or a single woman who's got a career vocation that it really, really serves her and makes her into an amazing person.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to have a husband. They're quite nice. They have lots of uses. They're a lot of fun, but they're not essential. Yeah. And children aren't either. They're just part of the tapestry of life. I suppose. That's where I've got to. That was a great question. Yeah. That's great. A great question. I like that very much.
That is really, I mean, I have no words because it just gave me chills when you said it. Because it's so simple and pure and everybody can use that advice, you know? So thank you, Rachael.
It's been a pleasure.
So yeah, that's really, really great. So is there anything else that you want to talk about or share?
No, I think we've talked about the big stuff. Actually, I think we've really talked about the stuff that matter to me.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. I mean,
thank you for this.
Of course.
I don't talk about this. I don't talk about this because people don't talk about it. Yeah. And I think it's something that should be talked about. There you are. There's my little should. It's a good thing to talk about.
Yes, it's a good thing to talk about.
It happens. And everyone's got their own version of why. And some people have a lot of pain. I had a lot of pain. I've worked with it. Now I'm just grateful for what I have now. But if you'd interviewed me 5 years ago, I'd probably have cried. You know. But thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for just opening yourself to this conversation, and I really appreciate it. It's not an easy conversation, and I actually it was a little bit uncomfortable for me to ask to kind of open up this topic. So yeah, no, but I think it's something that people will, listening to this conversation, it's important, and because it's reality. I mean, it's life. It's life, and what you make of it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That bit you can't change. It's what's happened.
Yeah.
So I can be a victim to it, or I can have a great life.
Yeah.
I'm choosing the second one.
Awesome.
Because why would I not? Because I'm alive, and I was a child once. Yeah. I've got to make the most of what I've been given by my parents and my life. Yeah, I've not brought another life into the world, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
But I could still have a great ride. So far, so good.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Well, thanks. Thank you so much, Rachael. I really appreciate it.
Total pleasure. Thank you, Marianne.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you want to get in touch with Rachael, check out her website, naturallyempowered.co.uk. That's www.naturallyempowered.co.uk. If you like this episode, please, 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 it would mean so much to me if you could post a review, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, check out my website, yourdoinggreatmom.com. That's YOURE, doinggreatmom.com, and get in touch with me. I love to hear from you. Right now, I'm really enjoying this conversation with women who are not mothers. It's a topic I think that many of us don't know about or talk about. And as a mother myself, I don't get to hear about the other side very often. I mean, what's it like not having any kids at this age? So I can't really imagine, and I can't remember what it's like. So stay tuned for next week's episode as the conversation continues with another woman, who is not a mother. See you next week. Thanks.